Welcome back to the Dopest Show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer, and this is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. Got a lot of stories about the dumb stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that actually happened when I was in prison, and God forbid you end up in prison. You want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, this is a story that ties in with something with addiction. It's an interesting story, but there was a counselor, pretty much changed my life when I was in drug court, and he really cared about people. He was an addict himself. Had been clean for almost 2 decades, I believe, at this point. He'd been abused at every family gathering by a cousin of his that just abused him every time, and it messed him up. A lot of counselors talk about personal stuff, but he was open about his stuff. It made you feel more you could talk to him about your stuff because he's letting you know, Lord, man, I thought my stuff would be, hearing stuff like that, and yeah. He's a great counselor, and he taught me the definition of enabling, which I want to get to in a second. It's often very, very mistaken. You can light the pipe, push the plunger on the needle, any of that. That is not enabling. You can give somebody a ride. That's not enabling. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, I'm in drug court. I don't have a license. They suspend your license when you get a drug charge, but for drug court, which is a conditional program for first-time offenders that get a felony drug charge, and I had distribution charges, and I got drug court for my state charges, and I was able to do it when I was on bond for my federal charges. I have to get to 3 drug tests a week on time, in which I have to stand for a 40-minute line, waiting one by one to be able to do this test. I have to go to 3 drug classes, all the way on the opposite side of town, that last 2 hours each, 3 times a week, for the first, 9 months to a year of this program. And if I get kicked out of this program, I go to jail and I'm going to go to the feds right from there. But not only that, but I'll have to go back in front of the judge for my state charges. If I complete it, it dismisses your charge. It gives you a second chance, and it's first time offender for that, so they allow me to do that. But I don't have a license, so it's impossible to do everything I need to do. So for $150, a week, this guy drove me around. My mom ran for office, and my mom, a little bit of a local celebrity. Everybody loves her. She's a saint. She takes pride in her job and helping people find something special. Engagement rings, all that type of thing. She really takes pride in it. She gets more excited about a sale where she did not make little to any money, for somebody that came in with an extreme budget that she was able to help find something special for, more than she would somebody came in with a Bentley. It just dropped a good bunch on her. Like it's a pride thing. My mom grew up sharing a bed with 3 sisters. Like there was 5 of them kids in a house and in a trailer. They ended up washing off a hill in a flood. They had to live in a church for a while, and she put herself through college with 3 jobs she worked. And started a small business while she was working in college. Went for a journalism degree, owned her own business. But anyway, all her family ended up working for her. Anyways, got more on that later. But the point is, she ran for office too, and she get these people that are like, want to say they know her, want to claim they're her best friend. There are lots of people that do that. They're completely full of it, and it gets frustrating. They all just are Klingon and just want to use her for a name and stuff. Well, when she ran for office, the freak came out. Some of the weirdest people ever. Some good people too, but some weird people. And one of these people was this dude from New York who claimed he was a private investigator. Mom was actually going to pay him to do something for somebody. The more it came about, no, he was just some dude on disability who'd done jail time actually for selling his own prescription pills. And he acted like he was like some kind of like godfather or something when he was in New York. He was, I think he said he was a cop for a year in New York, and he's like in the Coast Guard, and let everybody know that just all this different. He thought he knew. He was a know-it-all. Anything he'd tell you. He diagnosed people with illnesses and stuff. He don't know nothing about none of that. But anyway, he drove me. He'd drive 90 miles an hour, stopping inches away from the car in front. I was scared to death. One time we were driving down 220, which is windy. He's going 90 down. Pulls an electric razor out, starts shaving his face in the rear view. I filmed it. This was before smartphones, but at a camera, I filmed it, and I'm laughing because I think this is how I'm going to go. This is how I'm going to die. I didn't, but and he goes, oh, this thing works pretty good. So anytime I could get somebody else to drive me, I would. And luckily, one of my friends who I used to sell stuff to, interesting story with that guy. But anyway, he got right. He was in drug court. We hung out. Planet Fitness, terrible gym, terrible place. It sucks. But I had a membership back then, and the membership allowed me to bring a guest every time I went. So I brought this guy with me, and he could drive. He had his license, and I think he was just on probation. He wasn't in drug court, but like I said, we had to do the 3 drug tests and stand in a 45-minute line for each drug test, and 3 2-hour drug classes. So he picked me up for the drug class. We went to those together. I'd give him like, $15-20 for driving me each time. So I had to drive with that lunatic. God, it scared me. And one day he don't show up on time. He shows up late, which I don't like because I have to be to these classes on time. I can get my bond revoked, and I can have to get sentenced for my state charges and not get the conditional program that gives you a chance if I'm not there. He shows up late. I get in the car. His wheel is like the 12 o'clock part of the wheel has to be pointing right here for him to be driving straight. Like something's happened with this car. And he smells like alcohol, and he's like real spazzy and crazy, and I'm like nervous as can be driving with him. First off, the alarm that's messed up on this car. We're going on 581, which it's 55. He's going like 70 down at 75, and I'm worried this car's going to spin out. Second off, smell the alcohol. I don't ride with people who drink. I'd get messed up on any chemical and drive if I felt like I was capable of it. But drinking and driving, I never did that. Go figure. But I think it's worse, to be honest with you. If we're being completely honest, I think alcohol is worse than drugs to be driving on. It is terrible. It's ridiculous. But anyway, we get to the place, and it's obvious he's messed up. And I'm like, dude, they're gonna know, and everything else. And he's trying to lie about it at first, and the one counselor, I already knew the counselor's a cool dude, and he said something along these lines before, and he pulls him. He's saying he's going to leave the group. He's going to leave the group. And they're like, if you leave the group, we're going to have to report you. You're going to have to stay for this group, and we're going to have to talk about this. So he gets pulled back with this counselor. The counselor asked me to come back there because he knows I'm his friend, and I can keep him cool. I can keep him calm, and I've done this for a lot of my friends. I've kept them from doing stupid stuff, and I didn't want him to do it. So we go back in his office. He's like, you're obviously intoxicated. What have you done? Oh, I drank. That's it. You've done something else too. Go ahead and he says, I'm not going to call your probation officer. I promise you, I'm not. And this counselor's believable. He's a saint, and he's an addict himself. He's been clean for almost a couple decades. He's told us the stories of abuse that he went through. And he's like, man, don't mess with me. And he laughs and he says, I'm not messing with you. He says, tell me what happened. And he tells him what happened. And he had a crazy night the night before. He didn't tell him everything that happened, but he had problems with this girl. And and he's like, well, okay, here's how we do this. We're just honest with me, so we're going to go back in group, and we're going to talk about this. And that's how we're going to do this. That's how we're going to do this. You've got to speak on what happened, and we have to talk about it. And anyway, I learned later he went to like some bar, had a problem with this girl. There was some guy he had a problem with. Ended up going outside, getting in a fight, beating the guy, hitting him with something, busted the guy up. He tried to drive in a hurry out of the parking lot, wrecked his car into something, kept on driving, it somehow got home. So we don't know if he's one for the violence or whatever else. Wild situation that he had gotten himself into. And we talked a lot about his stuff and his problems, and he was like obviously emotional, where he's going to go back to jail and prison and everything else. And this counselor talked about a number of things, and basically my friend kept talking about this and that, and something about his girlfriend, and he had been enabling her by driving her to go get pills even though she's on it, and it got too much to be handled, and he ended up doing it. He said that wasn't enabling, and he went into this discussion of what enabling was, and it blew my mind. Actually, it surprised me. It wasn't what I expected, because so many people have a misconstrued conception of it. But this counselor, being handed a couple decades, said you can light the pipe, you can push the plunger to the needle. That's not enabling. You can give people a ride. That's not enabling. He says enabling is preventing the naturally occurring consequences of one's actions from taking place. So you get a check. You go out and you smoke that whole check up and crack. Then whoever the person is, a girlfriend, a parent, whatever, they give you the money to pay your bills, to pay your car payment, to pay your house payment, whatever. That's enabling. Because if they hadn't done it, you would have lost your car, you might have got evicted from your house, it would have sucked, and you'd realize, oh man, there are consequences for my actions. The bad's outweighing the good. Maybe I better do something. Okay? So that's enabling. If somebody gets put in jail, bailing them out. As soon as they get put in there, that's enabling. It's putting a pillow on the concrete instead of letting them bust their butt flat on it and feeling that broken tailbone every time they sit down. It's not letting the things happen that are a consequence of your actions. Okay, if the person has their own money, if they come up with whatever, anything else, give them a right, that's not a name. I'm not saying to do that. Definitely don't do that. But it's a misconstrued conception, and it's a term that just gets over abused, and it's annoying to me, especially since he told me that. And yeah, that's enabling. And there's so many people. I've got personal family, friends, personal people don't work with, everything else, and they just don't get it. Like, personally, I think, you can speed up the whole process. Kicking somebody out's the worst thing you can do. I've known girls get turned out. I've known 3 guys, friends of mine, that have robbed a pharmacy the same night they got kicked out. I think it's better to give them a choice. Listen, we got a rehab set up for you, or you're not going back in your room. We got some stuff we found in there. We're calling the police. You're gonna spend a few months in jail, but you can go to rehab too. I think it's a better choice. That's my method. And people say what they want about that. It's a better choice. They're not gonna die in jail. Okay, it's like seriously unlikely. Statistically, it's like very, very low. Okay. Even in bad places in the U.S. In jail, it's not as common, okay? It's not as common that, and it's going to save people from themselves, and oftentimes sitting in there thinking, this sucks, my choices got me here, that's what ultimately did it for me. I spent like 5 months in there plotting on how I was going to get out when I got back out and do the same thing, and around then, something clicked. But enabling, that is an important definition. Now, this friend ended up, I didn't see him again after this. He wouldn't pick up my phone calls. He's like my best friend. I called him from a different number. He picked up. I said, dude, what's going on? He said, Spencer, you're doing the best you've ever been. He says, you went from scrawny, you got yourself fit. He says, you're confident, you're doing everything right. He says, I wish I could be like that, but right now, I can't. And I'm not going to quit doing what I'm doing. So out of respect for you, I hadn't picked up your phone calls because it's not fair to you. So I apologize, man. You've been the best friend to me anybody could ever be, and it broke my heart. Can't help somebody who don't want to be helped. You speed it up though. I'm pretty good at speeding it up with certain people, speeding up certain processes and having recourse to put a roadblock in there to say, basically this very moment you've got options, but you're not going to get high for at least for a very good while. We can do a couple different things. One of them's going to be easy, and it's meant to help, to give you a chance to think and make up your own mind. The other one is going to suck. You're not going to like it, but I want to help you. I want to be the good guy. I want to do that, and I want to show you how to live and not be miserable. Each person's different according with each person, but I've got a different way to go about it. The way I go about it's different because my mom loved me to death. I got kicked out and left my own device and went out there and started hustling, and I learned after not having money, food, not having a place to sleep, I can't mess my money up. I ain't going to place to eat. And then so I got into that, and I got more addicted to that than anything else ever, the dealing part of it. And but before that, as a kid and stuff, she knew stuff was wrong. She took me to every different counselor. I saw more counselors I can count. And if one didn't work, she took me to the next one. There are no 2 counselors that are going to say the same thing. There are generally 3 categories of counselors. One swears to God you have a suppressed memory. You had to have a bad childhood, drunk something, or somebody touched you when you were a kid or something. Or they swear you have something suppressed. I know the majority of the people where I grew up came from good homes, and there's still an epidemic, okay? The uncle didn't make them sit on their lap. That didn't happen, okay? There's another one. the hard one that says, change the lock to the house, call the police if they come by. There's an old man whose neck looked like a nutsack that suggested my mom kicked me out when I was 14 and changed. That's not even legal. Yeah, as a douchebag. Then there's the one that actually does something that helps. They do basically they work with your family, a reward punishment system. You do good, you start getting more stuff, start getting more freedoms. You do bad, and there's going to be consequences to those actions, and you're going to have to accept those consequences. That's how it works. It's how it works better than anything else, in my personal opinion. And I do what I can with the people I can, and I try not to get attached or anything because I'm getting an ulcer in my stomach. There's a kid recently that tried to help. He came to a couple judo classes, but ultimately he didn't want to get clean. He just wanted to do the same old thing. He's back in jail now, and that sucks. It sucks. A friend of his OD'd and passed away, and after that, well, what better excuse to use it? And I know, it might seem cold, but addicts want any excuse to go back and use. Yeah. It's cloudy. Better get high. You can't use anything as an excuse. You got to accept, I don't get to do that. It's selfish. There are people that I have caused a lot of problems to. My life is not good as it is right now, and I have to do different things. It's like I said, cravings, I don't recognize as cravings. Most people that are addicts have dual diagnosis, mental health issues, and if they'd been on medications prior to that and had been diagnosed, things would be different. But when they try that drug for the first time in their life, when they felt uncomfortable in their old skin since birth, trying a drug makes them feel normal for the first time in their life. And that's why they become addicted, usually about 1 in 5 people. Me personally, OCD, ADD, bipolar, there's a number of things. And since I've gotten these medications, I don't recognize it as, as a craving. I recognize it as a panic attack or a little depression spell. That'll pass. And, I've got things I do, like an absurd number of burpees that shocks me out of it. It takes 5 minutes. I'm literally like cutter's cut. I do burpees till I sound like I'm sick probably an hour later because I breathe so hard that the mucus in my throat, that's how hard I do it because it's what works. It's what snaps me out of it. Reframing things, relooking at things, and you change the way you think, it gets easier and easier. It's no longer the solution. And if you aren't associated with anybody from the past, it's not an option. Who are you going to call to get something from? You're so far removed, it's not going to work that easily. But anyway, that's just a brief story of mine of something that sucked. If you liked it, press the like button. If not, that's 17 minutes and 50 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. Tomorrow I have an excellent story that I'm getting proud of. I was going to do it tonight, but I want to take my time. I'd have to cut it short tonight. Of a friend that was a frat boy that wanted to play at the big dogs. And he messed up, came asking me for protection from somebody that took him and his partner's money over an issue. Not only take his money, he said, I'm got your money, but I'm coming for any time when I see you next too. It's going to be bad. And the guy who was after him was about it. I know because I grew up with this guy. He was about it. And both people I was friends with, the guy who was the frat boy, I grew up playing rec league football from the 3rd grade with him. Was a year ahead of me in school. The other guy, one of my best friends, when he was in college, he had an apartment, had a roommate, but he was in college. He wasn't living there. He let me live in his apartment. I just had to get him ripped for free. I had to get him to keep a supply ready for him for the weekend when he came home every 3 months. And I keep the place clean as could be too. That was a thing too. I'd obsessively, he did me that favor. So, two people that, had issues, grew up with. So it makes it an interesting story, and I will tell that one tomorrow. But anyway, I hope you liked the video.